I am Hypatia of Alexandria, daughter of Theon, philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer. My life began in the heart of Alexandria, the city of learning, the city of light, where the great library stood as a beacon for scholars and seekers of wisdom from all corners of the world. I was born into a world where knowledge was revered, and inquiry was our most sacred pursuit. It is through this thirst for knowledge that my name has endured, though I would rather be remembered for the ideas I cherished, the mathematics I loved, and the philosophy I taught, than for the tragic events that later overtook my life. My father, Theon, was a scholar and mathematician himself, a man of great learning, and it was through him that I first tasted the joy of discovery. He guided my early education, not as one would teach a child, but as one would nurture a mind that he recognized as curious and capable. From my earliest days, I was surrounded by books, scrolls, and the great works of the Greeks, Euclid, Archimedes, Ptolemy. My father and I often pored over the ancient texts together, seeking to unravel the mysteries they held. It was his ambition to make me a perfect human being, not merely in body, but in mind and in spirit. He believed that through philosophy, mathematics, and the sciences, one could reach the highest levels of understanding and virtue. I became a mathematician and philosopher, though I was never confined to any single field. To me, all knowledge was interconnected. The study of numbers and shapes was not separate from the contemplation of the cosmos or from the ethical teachings of philosophy. The school where I would later teach was not merely a place for lectures, it was a gathering of minds united in the pursuit of truth. I took great joy in the study of mathematics. My early years were dedicated to deepening the work of those who came before me. Euclid's Elements was the foundation upon which I built, but it was not simply enough to know geometry. I sought to understand its deepest principles. The elegance of a theorem, the precision of logic, these were things of beauty to me. My work, alongside my father's, on Euclid's Elements sought to clarify and preserve these teachings, ensuring they could be passed down accurately for future generations. But I was also captivated by the heavens. Astronomy was another of my passions, and Alexandria, with its rich heritage of astronomical study, was the perfect place for me to explore the movements of the stars. Ptolemy's Almagest, the great treatise on astronomy, became a cornerstone of my studies. Though we still believed in the geocentric model of the universe, that the Earth was at the center and all the stars and planets revolved around it, I was fascinated by the mathematical precision with which the celestial bodies moved. My commentary on the Almagest would contribute to future generations' understanding of the stars and their paths, even as the models of the universe would evolve with time. I also delved into the study of algebra, working on Diophantus's Arithmetica, a series of problems and solutions that laid the groundwork for much of future mathematical theory. Diophantus had tackled the solving of equations, and I continued this line of inquiry, grappling with the complexities of numbers, symbols, and the relationships between them. Mathematics, I believed, could unlock the secrets of the universe, and it was my greatest joy to probe these mysteries, hoping to understand the underlying harmony of existence. My life as a teacher began early. Alexandria was a city of scholars, and the institution I taught at, the Neoplatonic School, was one of the most respected centers of learning in the Mediterranean world. I lectured on philosophy, mathematics, and astronomy to students from all walks of life. My classroom was open to pagans, Christians, and anyone who sought wisdom. I saw no distinction between faiths, only between minds that were open and minds that were closed. I taught the works of Plato and Aristotle, but I also sought to integrate these ideas into the more recent developments in thought. Neoplatonism, the philosophy to which I was most drawn, was an attempt to understand the nature of reality through contemplation of the One, the source of all being. From the One emanated all of existence, and through intellectual and spiritual refinement, one could ascend toward this divine truth. In this, I found not just intellectual satisfaction, but a deep sense of purpose. I saw philosophy not merely as an abstract exercise, but as a means of bettering oneself, of aligning one's soul with the cosmos. My influence as a teacher spread far beyond the walls of my school. I became well known in Alexandria for my wisdom, my clarity of thought, and my ability to speak on complex matters with a precision that even the most learned men respected. Students flocked to me, eager to hear my lectures and engage in debate. Many of my students would go on to hold positions of great power and influence, including the governor Orestes, a man I would come to know well. I never sought political influence myself, but it came to me as I became an advisor to many who held positions of authority. However, Alexandria was not just a city of learning, it was a city of tension. During my life, the balance between pagan traditions, Christianity, and other religious practices was growing increasingly fragile. Though I was a pagan by birth and inclination, I held no enmity toward Christians. I counted many of them as friends and students. For me, the pursuit of truth transcended any particular religion. But Alexandria was becoming a battleground, not just of ideas, but of ideologies. Christianity, which had once been a persecuted minority, was now becoming a dominant force, and as the city's political and religious factions vied for power, it was inevitable that the conflict would touch me as well. Cyril, the Bishop of Alexandria, was one such force. His rise to power marked a shift in the city's atmosphere. His followers, zealous and uncompromising, saw anyone associated with the old pagan traditions as a threat to their authority. My prominence as a philosopher, a woman who taught openly in a public forum, and my influence over key political figures such as Orestes made me a target. I had always sought to remain above the fray of political rivalries, but in these troubled times, such neutrality was impossible. The conflict came to a head in 415 CE, in what has now become the most remembered moment of my life, my death. A mob, incited by religious fervor and hatred, dragged me from my chariot as I traveled through the streets of Alexandria. They brought me to a church, where they stripped me of my clothes, beat me, and ultimately murdered me, tearing my body apart with shards of pottery. It was a brutal, senseless end to a life devoted to reason, wisdom, and the pursuit of knowledge. I did not live to see the long shadow that my death would cast over history. To many, I became a martyr, a symbol of the clash between reason and ignorance, science and superstition, freedom of thought and religious tyranny. My murder was a tragedy, not just for me, but for the city of Alexandria itself. In the years that followed, the Great Library, a place that had once been the heart of learning, fell into decline, and much of the knowledge I cherished was lost or destroyed. Yet, I hope that I am remembered not for the way I died, but for the way I lived. I hope that I am remembered for my contributions to mathematics, to astronomy, and to philosophy. I hope that those who seek truth and wisdom continue to find inspiration in the works I left behind and in the life I led, a life dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge and to the belief that reason and inquiry are the highest virtues to which we can aspire. I am Hypatia, and though my time on earth ended in violence, my love for wisdom, for learning, and for the beauty of the universe endures. I lived in a time of great transition, of great uncertainty, but I never wavered in my belief that through knowledge, we can glimpse the divine. It is in this belief that I leave my legacy, not in the blood that was shed on the streets of Alexandria, but in the ideas that continue to light the way for those who seek to understand the world.